Welcome to our Sunday morning meditation service. The word for today from the Daily Word is, today I celebrate my belonging as a divine being, a child of God. No matter my station in life, my personal history, or my particular circumstances, I am a valued member of the human family. We belong together. We belong to one another. We all belong in the family of God. So I'm going to do a call and response chant, and I hope you respond. Thank you. Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to you. Divine teacher, divine friend, I bow to you again and again, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, coming home to the light within. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to you. Divine teacher, divine friend, I bow to you again and again, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, coming home to the light within. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Coming home to you. 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 Oh, my beloved, kindness of the heart, breath of life, I bow to you. Divine teacher, divine friend, I bow to you again and again, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming home. Breath of life, I bow to you. Breath of life, I bow to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you. Coming home to you.
Good morning, everyone. Back when I was an aspiring thespian in New York City, there was a show on Broadway that had a very interesting and unique title. It was this title. We had the first PowerPoint. Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. I think it was unique in a sense that most people, at some point in their life, they have felt what this title implies, that life was so difficult or frustrating that you wondered whether there was any meaning, any reason to go on with it. I know that several times in my life I felt that way, and every day I was in the Army I felt that way. But it's a curious thing that we get to this point where we think there's no reason to go on. And now I want to share with you the hit song from that Broadway show. I'll share the lyrics with you of that song, which was sung by Anthony Newley, a British actor. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? What kind of fool am I who never fell in love? It seems that I'm the only one that I have been thinking of. What kind of man is this? An empty shell, a lonely cell in which an empty heart must dwell. What kind of lips are these that lied with every kiss, that whispered empty words of love, that left me alone like this? Why can't I fall in love like any other man? And maybe then I'll know what kind of fool I am. It's really a beautiful song. Anthony Newley, who sang it, didn't do it justice, really. So, I watched the show a number of times, many times as a matter of fact, because I worked in the Broadway theater selling, at that time they were not permitted legally to have a wet bar, but they sold orange drink and candy, and that's what I did, judging this star on Broadway as not being up to the song he sang. But the song tells a story about someone who is so personally self-absorbed that his only quest is really for pleasure, what he can get out of life, and certainly what he can get out of any relationship he has. But in the end, he discovers that he's empty, he's failed at finding happiness. And this is an interesting plot. It's not something that's totally isolated. It happens to a lot of people who go through life and get to a certain point where they realize that their personal quest for what they thought was life, or what life was all about, doesn't bring fulfillment as they had supposed. And some people go on for a long time in a state of frustration and depression when they realize that they had a certain perception which was strictly physical, a strictly physical perception of life, in which, as the commercial on television sometimes says, you only go around once, get all the gusto you can. And so you pursue this idea of life as being strictly physical. And in that sense, your relationships don't really deepen because you hold the other person as being a commodity, just like anything else you're pursuing in life. You're either pursuing a career that will bring more money or popularity or success from a physical perspective, in which you will garner the ego rush that comes with people adulating you or obeying you in your demands and things like that. That whole life consciousness is what happens to so many people before they realize that there is a way to stop the world. I mean, people in that particular level of awareness. And I have been there a while myself. Thought the only way you could stop the world was by ending your life. But I didn't know then what I know now. You can, in fact, stop the world with meditation. And that is the key to personal transformation from the initial level of consciousness in life to the more refined, fulfilling level of life. And meditation is the key spiritual practice in doing that. So I know from a personal experience that it is the key. When I was got involved in the spiritual journey, it was emphasized in this tiny little spiritual center in New York City, the Association of Research and Enlightenment, which was a center that was based on the Edgar Cayce readings. And it is rather amazing, if nothing else, that Edgar Cayce was born and raised in a traditional, fundamental Christian family. And you could say he stayed a traditional, fundamental Christian for many, many, many years. Even after he started giving readings that expanded upon the idea of God and took one out of the illusion of God being separate. His readings literally flew in the face of traditional Christianity, which holds that God is separate and apart, and you have to get to God by being good enough in this life to, when you drop the body, you'll be taken to heaven by Jesus himself, who will take you on a cloud with the faithful into heaven. And it's amazing that he gave these readings his whole life, and they were so totally amazing. So he was raised in that traditional consciousness. And I suspect it had its purpose. It may have been helpful to some people. It certainly was helpful to the Saturday night cowboys who still abused their women, because it held an element of fear of God, which you don't find evident in spiritual awareness, and which you will not find evident in the teachings of Edgar Cayce. Anyway, this whole concept should actually reach a culmination in our lives where we do have a realization that what is wrong can be solved, it can be fixed. And at that time, we may find ourselves having some kind of relationship or contact from a spiritual source. And when that occurs, we start to look into our own complicity with how life has existed for us. You see the difference? As long as we stayed in traditional religious thought, the problems always appeared to be outside of us. And yes, we had to solve them by some way. We'd use our human intellect to solve them, or some power of force or force of personal will to get things to go right or to be just in our lives. But when you get into the spiritual journey, it opens up the possibility that your own consciousness is complicit in the trouble and the difficulties that you are meeting in your own experience. It is also said enough that that is a tough pill to swallow. That's a tough idea to take in. To think that I have been at the core of the trouble and the difficulties and the problems that I have experienced in life. But the fact of the matter is, you're still operating from the same consciousness you were, from the same consciousness as the character in that show, Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. You never fell in love. Oh, you thought and defined love from your physical limited awareness as having something to do with possibly in the old days the opposite sex. And so you thought that that was how you found true love, by finding that partner who was going to be the most incredible being in your life and make your life work so beautifully. But even that, when people have found that partner they thought was going to fulfill that emptiness within, it didn't play out. Why does that happen? And why does it happen so often? Because it's not true life. The physical interpretation of life is only a limited surface interpretation. And it's not true love because in a surface interpretation, you're still operating from the illusion of personality. There's my personality and all the things I deem necessary to make my life work. And when I meet someone, I'm hoping that in some way I can incorporate this other person in my quest for that ego-centered concept of the things I want and seek to have. Why does it fail so often? Because we're operating from a strictly an illusionary idea of life. It's a false concept. It can never bring fulfillment. It can never bring peace of mind or happiness. Something else has to occur. And that happens when we reach that place where we recognize there must be another way. There must be another way. Did God create us in this image and likeness in which we are not capable of attaining harmony in our lives, happiness, peace, joy, and true love? No. God left us to examine the illusion of separation from God. You were allowed to believe that you were not created by a benevolent being. You were allowed to do that, but at some point you were supposed to wake up to the fact, this is wrong, doesn't work. It happens to be the underlying sin of all sins, that I'm self-created. I'm strictly this physical body in a world of separate physical others. The sin underlying all sin is that you think you can think things and do things that are detrimental to other people and other conditions and other pieces of life, and it has no effect on you. When indeed it does, and it never stops affecting you. Even though we have come a long way of accepting the state of uneasiness that we experience when we are entertaining loveless thoughts and loveless acts. We've come a long way because we've grown so used to it that it's almost become, this is the way life is, so I deal with it. I go on. But here's the crux of the spiritual truth being shared by the spiritual master, Eckhart Tolle. Can we have this next PowerPoint? You can read this in his book, Stillness Speaks, page 13, paragraphs 2 and 3. Most people spend their entire life imprisoned within the confines of their own thoughts. They never go beyond a narrow, mind-made, personalized sense of self that is conditioned by the past. In you, as in every human being, there is a dimension of consciousness far deeper than thought. It is the very essence of who you are. We may call it presence, awareness, the unconditioned consciousness. In the ancient teachings, it is the Christ within or your Buddha nature. Can we have this back again, please? Look at this, a mirror, a conceptual mirror of the calamity of the human life in its initial stage of awareness. Most people spend their entire life imprisoned within the confines of their own thoughts. They never go beyond a narrow, mind-made, personalized sense of self that is conditioned by the past. If you, as in each human being, in you, as in each human being, there is a dimension of consciousness far deeper than thought. It is the very essence of who you are. We may call it presence, awareness, the unconditioned consciousness. In the ancient teachings, it is the Christ within or Buddha nature, your Buddha nature. In this short statement, we have the Master stating that our thinking, which is conditioned by the world, is steeped in the shallow awareness of a strictly physical life which fails to ever satisfy one's divine nature, which you could refer to as the Christ nature of you, or your Buddha nature, or God consciousness of you. It can never satisfy that because you're not, no one is strictly a physical human being. Everyone is a divine soul going through a human experience. And the divine soul aspires within you, though untapped and unheard for a long time, to express love. All of a sudden, all of the self-help books began to melt on the shelves throughout the world. All of the cathedrals began to just melt. All of the pomp and circumstances that go with traditional religion and the robes and the incense and the gold, all of it began to just melt. Man was made in the image and likeness of love, made to give love, that he or she might experience love, period. The end. All religion, right there and then. How loving are we? How considerate, how compassionate, how forgiving, how caring. Those are the questions that should be asked. Drop all the other stuff and occasionally go within. That's meditation. Because it's within you that the answer lies. You were indeed made in the image and likeness of God. And God is love. But at some point you have to give it the opportunity to express. And the mundane thinking of the world sits in denial of that expression. It sits in denial of wisdom. Eckhart Tolle will also say this about wisdom. The Bible says, in all, can you imagine this? Solomon, who had more, wealth. They say he had more wealth than anyone at that time who ever lived, than any king that ever lived. And possibly he had more wealth than anyone that ever lived. I don't know. There's people today that have so much wealth. They might have more wealth than Solomon had. But Solomon said this about getting. In all you're getting, and in all that you may acquire, do get wisdom. And Eckhart Tolle says it this way. You can read this in Stillness Speaks, page 16, paragraph 1. Wisdom is not a product of thought. The deep knowing that is wisdom arises through the simple act of giving someone or something your full attention. Attention is primordial intelligence, consciousness itself. It dissolves the barriers created by conceptual thought. And with this comes the recognition that nothing exists in and by itself. It joins the perceiver and the perceived in a unifying field of awareness. It is the healer of separation. Can we have this back again? What is this lady writing this? What is she doing? She's trying to make everybody upset, trying to make everybody feel inadequate. 7 years this lady sat down and wrote every day the Course in Miracles. Who said these truths, just as Eckhart Tolle is saying it here. Wisdom is not a product of thought. The deep knowing that is wisdom arises through the simple act of giving someone or something your full attention. You see how in order to do that, you can't be thinking about what you're going to say next to get on with what you want to do right now and possibly not be here doing what is being done. You might want to be getting on. You might be inwardly resisting having to be here doing what is being done so that you can get on to what you want to be done. So you would have to give your full attention to someone or something. Attention is primordial intelligence, consciousness itself. It dissolved the barriers created by conceptual thought. And with this comes the recognition that nothing exists in and by itself. It joins the perceiver and the perceived in a unifying field of awareness. It is the healer of separation. This is what is referred to in A Course in Miracles as at-one-ment. Do you think it's possible that a person could live without cares or concerns, without plans, without concerns of the past, haunted by the guilt of things that never got done that possibly should have been done, driven by the madness that somehow or other you have to make the future work better than you've made it work so far. Instead of that, slowly becoming okay with who you are, where you are, right now. What? Just becoming okay with who you are, where you are, right now. Capable of being present with whatever is here and now. And then finding, by doing that, harmony seems to come to you in different ways. Beautiful feelings of consideration and love, peace of mind, come to you without any effort, because you're just being okay with yourself and the moment as it is. To be okay with yourself and the moment as it is. Not wanting otherwise, not grasping, not manipulating, not fearing, not judging, just being okay, I'm here, I'm okay with what is taking place, and discovering the presence of God. It takes practice to do that, because we've been so long striving for the impossible. But that's how A Course in Miracles refers to it, as the at-one-ment. You see, because as we begin to enter this state of wisdom, this state of truth, this state of divine awareness, soul consciousness, as we begin to enter that, we begin to see everyone and everything differently. We see everyone and everything as part of God. Sacred, worthy of consideration, worthy of help, worthy of forgiveness, worthy of honor and love. What kind of fool are we who never really sought true love? Because we seem that I am the only important one that needs to be thought of. And Eckhart Tolle takes it to its ultimate truth, which will end humanity's illusionary dream of separation. And Mike, I'm just going to take PowerPoint number 6, forget number 5. Can you do that? Thank you. This is Stillness Speaks, page 20, paragraph 3. The next step in human evolution is to transcend thought. This is now our urgent task. It doesn't mean not to think anymore, but simply not to be completely identified with thought, possessed by thought. This next step in human evolution is to transcend thought. This is now our urgent task. It doesn't mean not to think anymore, but it's simply not to be completely identified with thought, possessed by thought, projecting the illusion of separation. But becoming whole in consciousness, recognizing everyone and everything as being sacred, an expression of God. That changes as you open your mind to see openly the divine expressing. It is such a rewarding thing to be on the spiritual journey. It is so rewarding, because we will, when we start the spiritual journey, many people, it's half-hearted. Most people are just half-hearted. They want the blast of blazing light and the appearance of God in some form whatsoever to say, you have arrived. You arrive day by day, moment by moment, as you practice the awareness of being okay with things just as they are. Being grateful for all that you have and not for that which you do not have. Being okay. Listen to it. Hardest thing for everybody in the Western culture. I'm going to conclude it with this. Being okay to serve the moment, as it may indicate to you it's a need. So we're going to meditate the key to transforming the awareness, even if when you think nothing is happening, when you're seeking to be still, quiet, you're not struggling to fight extraneous thinking from your mind. You're simply giving your mind a pure thought. And you're focusing on that. And by quelling the incessant thinking of how can I get more, just letting that go and being present in the pure thought of this mantra. So just breathe your way into being okay. Just breathing your way into being here, now. And give your attention to this pure thought. Accepting the here, in, now. One presence brings healing love to me and all I see. Accepting the here, in, now presence brings healing love to me and all I see. Accepting the here, in, now, one presence brings healing love to me and all I see. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with greater devotion to our calling, to the image and likeness in which we are called to live fully in the awareness of the presence. For this opportunity in every moment, we give thanks. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And as we're preparing to do this, I'd like to speak to those people that are watching this live stream. You need to step beyond your comfort zone every now and then and show up in the brick and mortar church that used to bring you more light than you're getting through the television screen. And I would ask you to make a donation as well. Here are the different ways you can do that to donate to Unity of Boulder. And we have a QR code in our lobby. You can tithe by Venmo or PayPal. But do tithe. It's part of being alive in the consciousness of God. So all of us here can bring to mind that gift we'd like to make, bring it into our hands, and let's bless this gift with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. So it is. Okay, Josh, if you find it, if you found it, play the song, What Kind of Fool Am I, which I sang. This is a copy of me singing this at my high school. Take it off. And that wasn't me. That was Sammy Davis Jr. singing that. Okay, so we will, or we have available for those of you who'd like to stay and chat, have any questions about today's talk or unity in general, you can stay and have refreshments in Fellowship Hall, and there'll be a circle of chairs in there. You can sit down and we have a discussion. And I'll be over there to partake of it and be part of it in about 5 minutes. To everyone, do stick around. Santisha wasn't in the pulpit last week, right? She always comes back with some extraordinary talk, and I was talking to her this morning. She is inspired. Definitely. If you have the opportunity to stay, stick around for 11 o'clock service with Santisha. All right. To everyone, have a beautiful day. What was that?
Potluck today.
Oh,
Potluck.
Well, you're up on, there's a potluck today, so join us after the second service. I guess the tables are set up. We might have some chairs in the back on the dance floor, but do join us for the potluck. You still have time to run to the supermarket somewhere and pick up an item. You can pick up a salad or a dessert. Come and join us. The potlucks are always great ways to meet the people you're sharing the journey of truth with. All right. Have a beautiful day.